Welcome back to Brain Bar, everybody. How you guys feeling? Make some noise. Nice full house we have here. It's great to see you all. Now, listen, we've got a few more programs here. I'm so glad to see that the weather's cleared up. It really gives a nice vibe over here. And we're going to talk about something positive now, and that's nanotechnology. And it originally started as a weird, crazy concept in science fiction, but now it's reality, and it's got a really important set of applications in medical technology. So how can nanotechnology improve our lives on a medical level? It's really interesting, and you guys are going to have a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts. You're going to hear something really interesting over here. So if you have any questions, make sure you're prepared with them, because in the last 10 minutes, you guys will have the chance to ask questions of our speaker. And so make sure that you make yourselves known to the volunteers at that point, and you'll get to have your say. So our speaker over here is a really interesting guy. And in addition to his research in nanotech, he's also a businessman, entrepreneur, swimming and tennis coach, power lifter, and diet expert. I'm pretty sure the only thing he hasn't done is sprout wings and fly, but I think he's working on that too. So he's a visiting research scholar from UC Berkeley. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Nuno Martins.
So much.
Absolutely.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Is everyone comfortable? Let's start. Let's go for it. So today we're going to talk, and this is the title of my talk, Brain Meets Computer. So we're introducing the brain to computers. If I was seated on that side, my question was, what are you doing there? What am I doing here? I want to show you a future where the human brain is connected to computers. Short intro. I'm a scientist, visiting scholar at the University of California, Berkeley, in the United States, at the Center for Science, Technology, Medicine, and Society, at the Program for Medical Humanities. It's not just about science. If you want to make a difference in the world, you have to bring the technologies to the market. And that's where the entrepreneurial part comes in. I created a couple of companies. And also philanthropist. We all live in a planet where we're blessed to have this quality of life, but many billion don't. And I think it's our responsibility to improve their lives. I'm the president of a nonprofit that invested so far more than $100 million in biomedical research. So that's why I identify as a philanthropist. Question for today. How do we connect to the cloud today? How do we access the internet? Well, we pick up a cell phone, we have our thoughts, and we have a question. Let's say the question is, what is Brain Bar? So this gentleman in his head has this question, what is Brain Bar? So he sends through his spinal cord an electrical signal, moves through his arm, reaches his fingers, and he types on the cell phone, what is Brain Bar? On Google. The cell phone sends an information to the cloud, and the cloud replies saying Brain Bar is today the best conference in the world. Certainly. I was very impressed with the conference, by the way. Really amazing. And then the information is displayed on the cell phone. He looks, his eyes read the information on the cell phone, and information goes from his eyes to the visual cortex and then through the rest of his brain. And now he knows that Brain Bar is an amazing conference. So, idea, electrical impulses, reaches the cell phone, connects to the cloud, comes to the cell phone, goes through your eyes to your brain. Next question. Can we do this directly? Can we connect the brain with the cloud without having to use a device? Can we do this directly? That's the question. In 2019, 3 years ago, we published a paper titled Human Brain Cloud Interface. The paper was published on the journal Frontiers of Neuroscience. It's a very respected journal in the neuroscience field. And what was interesting about this was that the paper got a lot of attention from the scientific community. So scientists around the world said, this is very interesting. They said, this makes sense. This is the time to make this a reality. How do we know they think this? Because the paper is now on the top 10 most viewed papers ever among 10,000 papers, more than 10,000. So the journal has more than 10,000 published papers, and this paper, the paper we published, is now on the top 10 most viewed papers ever, with more than 200,000 views. Well, but more importantly than being proud of the success of the paper is the fact that this means that the scientific community recognizes that this is the time to make this technology a reality. Let's look into science and technology. What is our body made of? Cells, right? Cells. But what are our cells made of? What I'm showing you here is happening right now inside many of your cells. This vesicle is being carried along a microtubule by this motor protein, a small nanorobot. It's literally a bio-nanorobot inside your cells. And it's not just the motor protein. Our cells are built with small nanomachines. This is a picture, the most precise picture today, the most precise representation of a cell today. So this is very small. It's inside our cells, small things moving around. Question: can engineers and scientists work at this scale? Can we move things in such a precise way? Let's check. 10 years ago, IBM created a movie, the smallest movie ever made, built with atoms, carbon atoms. These carbon atoms are extremely small. They're way smaller than the motor protein you just saw walking with the vesicle. And they did a small movie with it. Why did they do the movie? Just to illustrate and show how powerful our technology is today. I think the movie didn't go to the theaters, though, but still. Well, you could say, right, that's cool. We can move atoms. These atoms are really small, even smaller than the small things we have inside our cells. But can we build things? Can we pick up those atoms and build small machinery? Can we build something like a nanorobot? A small device that we build that's smaller than the motor protein you just show us. We can. These are nanocars. These nanocars are built today, and there's a competition to win a race with these nanocars. So essentially, scientists are playing video games. That's how we're spending the government's money. Let's go for the next one. Well, you could say, that's cool, but that's, how do you interface these man-built micro-robots and nanorobots? How do you interface this with biology? Can we interface this with our cells? What I'm showing you here is a sperm bot, a micro-robot picking up an individual sperm cell. It's helping the sperm cell gain mobility. It's moving the sperm cell, and what you're about to see is that it will fertilize an egg. This is how human life starts. This is how your life started. So let's stop here for a second. So scientists can build nanomachines. These nanomachines can interface with cells similarly to what we have inside our cells. So let's make the following assumption. We will build many of these nanomachines and we'll use them to interface with neurons in our brains. Kind of scary. Let's assume that for a second. If we have that technology, could computers handle the information we have in our brain? When you buy a computer, what's the question you do when you go to a store? When you buy a computer, how much storage capability does the computer have? How many files can I put there, right? How many photos can I store on my computer? That's the storage capability. The second question you do to the salesman is, well, it's not just about storing, it's about using programs. So what's the processing power of the computer? Can I run Windows 2040, for example? Or AutoCAD, right? So that's the storage and the processing power of the computer. Question, what's the processing power of a human brain? 10 years ago, we published a paper where we quantified the processing power of a human brain. And the number is 10 to the 16 bits per second. Well, that's scientists' numbers. Let's explain this for everyone. 1,000 is 1 with 3 zeros. 1,000,000, 1 with 6 zeros. That's 10 to the 6. 1,000,000,000, 10 to the 9. So 9 zeros. We're getting there. 1 with 12 zeros, 10 to the 12. A trillion, 10 to the 15, a quadrillion. So the human brain has 50 quadrillion bits per second. What's the fastest supercomputer today? The fastest supercomputer is 10 to the 18 bits per second. 20 times faster than the human brain. Is it better? No. It's different. So we're not saying that supercomputers are better than human brains, but we're saying that supercomputers are capable of handling the data if we had a way to send information from our brains to the computers. So essentially, what we're saying is computers are capable of answering our thoughts and our questions in real time today. Faster than the human brain. So we have these machines, they interface with the brain, send information to a computer, no need for a cell phone anymore. But have we ever built a prototype? Does this really work? What I'm about to show you, this lady is controlling a robotic arm with her thoughts only. She's thinking, and she's able to feed herself. She's a tetraplegic. And how do we do that? We install, this is a different group from our group, but it's still at UC Berkeley. We install these small machines next to nerves. And what you're about to see here is the data that we receive on the computer. It's extremely biocompatible. We can install this next to the nerves, and it can stay there for decades. No problems. Very friendly to the human body. And the idea here is to show you that this is happening today. We're testing small prototypes that will allow us to interface nerve cells with computers. This gentleman is controlling a robotic arm for amputees with his thoughts only, just by thinking. Has other applications, can be used for other healthcare applications. And as I said, this is a reality today. I'm not showing you the future here, just showing you reality today as a prototype. Well, you could say, great, we're going to build these things, but there's nobody in the world that we're going to sell this, right? Who is crazy enough to decide to create a company that's going to sell this, right? Let me introduce you to Mr. Elon Musk. He created recently a company called Neuralink, and their mission is to interface the human brain with computers. Well, that's Elon, right? I mean, just that's one person that we know. You know, he has some ideas. Is anybody else in the world trying to help or do this kind of thing? There are currently more than 188 neurotechnology companies literally spread all over the world. Let's assume this is going to happen. Let's say that in the next 10 to 15 years, this technology will be available. How will this make the world a better place? How will this make your life better? Let's go back to the paper. Let's think about education. One of the Millennium Goals is to provide every human being with education, access to education. But there are more than 1 billion people in the world living in the poorest areas of the world. Will we ever build a university there? It's not cost effective. So how can we give them access to high quality education? What if we had something like Starlink? Elon is creating something called the Starlink, and Microsoft is doing also, many other companies. They're ensuring that everywhere in the planet, we all have access to internet anywhere. If that happens, anywhere, even those living in the poorest areas of the world will have access to the internet. So if they had a connection with the cloud, they would be able to access information. And then the question is, how will this change education? Even in our country, in developed countries. Do we need to have the same concept? Do we need to feed people with information? Do we need to memorize things? Or, with this technology, can we focus on happiness, on values, and have teachers focus on helping students understanding how can they improve their lives? Because everything else is accessible just by thinking. So you don't need to memorize. How about intelligence? And this is a slightly more radical idea. We're all born with what we measure as our IQ. Einstein was a pretty smart individual. What if we had direct access to the cloud? In the cloud, we would have access to the AI algorithms. And just to tell you, recently, artificial intelligence was able to outperform a board of certified physicians diagnosing cancer. So if you had access to the cloud, you would be able to diagnose cancer better than a board of certified physicians today. How about virtual and augmented reality? No need for glasses. We can just display information in our field of view. And artificial intelligence was mentioned as an existential threat for humanity. Elon Musk said it, and if Elon says it, we need to hear it, right? And many others, not just Elon, many others, brilliant scientists around the world said, we have to be careful. We have to find a solution. AI is amazing, but it can be an existential threat. What if we had direct access from our brain to the cloud? There will be no AI in humans, because upgrading AI would be upgrading humans. Improving the AI algorithms, improving the quantity of information in the cloud would obviously be improving our quality of life and improving our access to that information. So improving AI, so AI would not be an existential threat, it would be an augmenting technology. We're going to go for the Q&A if this sounds kind of weird. I want to hear your questions. So the conclusion of the paper we published was, it's indeed, well, currently, it's biologically impossible for us to keep up with scientific knowledge. A PhD student today, finishing his PhD thesis, is outdated 6 months after doing his PhD. So we cannot keep up with the quantity of information being created. This is amazing. It means that I'm extremely proud to be part of the human race. We are collectively creating a tremendous amount of knowledge and the better world. But how do we keep up with it? How can we individually follow up what's happening? So it's indeed important and urgent that we connect the human brain with the cloud. If you want to get in touch, let me know anytime. We're going to have a Q&A session. If you have any other questions, because it's so short, it's not a lot of time, feel free to get in touch with me via my website, for example. And I want to thank you. I know there's a lot of people from different places in the world. Obviously, I have to thank you in your own language. For Hungarian ones, thank you for welcoming me to your wonderful country, Kazanam. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very
Now,
much.
listen, now is Q&A time. So if you guys had any questions that were raised during Nuno's presentation, raise your hands, make yourselves known. Our volunteers are walking around with microphones. We have a man in a brown hoodie over there. We've got people all over the place. So, Nuno, have a seat over here and face your questioners.
Yes, we'll do. With pleasure. This is the fun part. Let's go for it.
Hey,
Hello.
you said that you basically took it for granted that unbridled and absolutely unlimited access to information for everyone, anywhere, at any time, is a positive thing. But you surely heard the idiom that ignorance is bliss. So why do we take it for granted that anyone can access any information on the internet, including malicious information, including misinformation, and all the dangers the internet brings with it?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. That's a very important question. When scientists create a technology, what happens? Let's say fire. When we created fire, fire can be used to cook food or to burn a forest. When we built a knife, it can be used to cut food or for eating. It can be used to protect us from someone to harm us, but it can also be used to kill somebody. The same for a gun. When you have a gun, you can use it to protect an innocent person, or you can use it to kill somebody. So when scientists and engineers, and that's why the question is brilliant, when scientists and engineers create something, every new technology can be used for good or for evil. It's up to us how we decide to use it. Now, how do we do in society? So how do we protect society? We create courts, legislation, police, and entities that will ensure that, they'll do their best, right? They will do their best to ensure that for those of us who are not good intentioned, or that are not they don't have the intentions to do good for society or for others, that there's a way to protect people from those who are not having the intentions we want them to have. So the question is brilliant because it reports to the most important fact in any new technology. As a society, and that's why we're talking about this, as a society, we have to start working on the policies, the legislation, the protection systems. Cryptography can be used to protect data to avoid that somebody has access to what they should not have access to. Did I answer the question? Kind of? Sure.
Thanks for your question. Does anyone else have a question? Raise your hand. We've got people on this side. Oh, wow, all over the place. Where's the nearest phone?
microphone.
Oh, we have someone there.
So
Yep,
my
cool.
question would be that you were talking about that. So, for example, I have something what I know, but I don't want to know. So I have a secret.
Right.
And in that word which you were describing, I have the access to anybody's brain, or so did I understand this true, or?
Good point. No, no. Another great question. Privacy.
Yeah, so the question was, what I would like to ask is that in that word, let's say that somebody has access to everybody's brain who has the connection to this cloud.
Right.
And how can I protect my privacy in that cloud and in that system?
Question, privacy. Let's do an analogy. Cell phones. On my cell phone, I have access to my email. I have my files there. I have many of my thoughts there. The work I do, I type it either on my computer or my cell phone. So today, we have computers and cell phones where we have a lot of our information. How do we secure privacy today? How do we do it? We have passwords, right?
Yes, but there is a big difference between
Yeah,
cell
sure. I'll go there.
phones
I'll go there. Just 1 sec. I'll go there. No, you're right. I'll go there. So the analogy is, so first of all, the analogy is, we're gonna have the cryptography. Cryptography allows us to do the following, which is we can introduce information, read information, without giving access to it to others. It's a way to communicate with machines, ensuring that the information we put on our computer is only accessible to us or the ones we allow to. Sharing permissions. That's what we do in Google, right? So obviously, or likely, we will not want others to have access to our thoughts. The same way, we don't want our cell phone to be accessible to every single one of you. But on Instagram, I don't mind sharing photos. So I will decide, as of today, what I want to share and what I don't want to share. And some mathematical tools, like cryptography, can be used, and others, to protect information and separate what I want to show of what I want to, not expose to the community. So it's a similar system. So in a certain way, once we have access to the cloud directly from the brain, we want to make sure that these devices will only allow us to have access to the information that we want to share, right? Can it be hacked? Yeah, but I'll leave that question for the following. I was going ahead of myself. That was too much. Did it help?
Yeah, I would wanted to ask about what happens when our brain gets hacked.
Yeah, that's so, okay, perfect.
Yes,
well, that's a great question. That's a great question, by the way. Okay, so obviously the technology we have for today to avoid hacking is very much based, again, on a little bit like the concept of bitcoins as we have today. So cryptography is underlying the security system that we have. But how do we do, for example, with wallets on Bitcoin? What kind of technology do you use? What you know as blockchain technology, right? So blockchain technology is an example of how we can use cryptography to encode the data and protect the data. Certainly, with the brain, we have to be 100% sure that this will not happen. But again, in any new technology, sometimes it's not possible to make it 100%. But for sure, when it comes to market, we're going to have the policies, the legal systems, the cryptography, and all the necessary tools to ensure that it's extremely safe, okay? It might not be 100% safe. Some government somewhere extremely advanced may have an opportunity to go there, but more and more we're becoming, and this is very important, that's why your question is fantastic, because more and more we have to trust each other in the sense that we have to educate for values. People have to understand their role in society. We're all responsible for everybody. If we have good intentions, if our values are well established, we don't have an issue. But for those values to be established, we have to ensure, and that's why the philanthropy is important, that everyone around the world has good quality of life. If everyone around the world has a social structure, has a family, has a house, has food on the table, it's very likely that we will have a better world and that the problems you're mentioning are very unlikely to happen. And that's why the philanthropy work I do is something I really value. We need to build a better world for everyone. It's a moral responsibility, and it's something that we need to do for everyone's benefit. It's not just for those who are in need, it's also for us, for everybody.
Great. I hope that answered your question. It looks like we have time for one more question. Do we have? Yes, we have. We've got this woman on this side, black turtleneck.
That's right.
Hi, hello. You talked about need and everyone. Don't you think there will be some people who are skeptical and wouldn't want to accept this new technology?
Absolutely. Great question. It's important to understand this. First rule on this technology, in my humble opinion, everyone has the right to use it or not. The same way today, again, let's do an analogy today. There's people around the world who don't want to use cell phones. They don't want to use laptops. And the first rule of a civilized society is the right to choose. Everyone has the right to choose. Everyone has the right to say if they want it or not. We may be convinced this is something fantastic, but everyone has the right to choose if they want to use it or not. That's a fundamental pillar of a civilized society. Brilliant question, thank you.
Sorry, Sid.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, may I ask? Here.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Here.
There you go.
So if we put the privacy issues aside,
Right.
my question is, in the future of brain-to-brain interaction, there is the possibility, at least somehow I'm quoting Elon Musk, that the language, natural language which we are speaking now would somehow be a past or a history. And this is quite a huge threat to the human language because according to him, and I disagree with him because he's not a philosopher, he's an engineer. So he's saying that the language which we are speaking is just encoding in a low bandwidth the thoughts which are going on the brain.
Right.
But I don't think that this is true. For example, Heidegger says that language is the house of existence because language is not only a tool to communicate, but it's also the tool to think. So we cannot think without a language.
I'm going to have to push you to actually ask a question. I'm sorry.
This is the question, that if we go with this technology to its end, where could we stop? If we investigate this brain-to-brain interaction without a language,
Right.
who would tell us, like, okay, let's stop here because this is dangerous?
Yeah, well, first question, language. All our cultural developments make us who we are. The way we dress, the way we speak, the way we think, reflect what our parents taught us, what our friends, what we learned with our friends. So society, helps us build who we are. And your question is, will we lose some of these characteristics by connecting the brain to another brain or to the cloud? Seems unlikely. Let me explain you why. As of today, there's already real-time translation systems available. So we pick up a cell phone, I'll talk in Portuguese, and it will translate to Hungarian. The Hungarian person will speak in Hungarian, and the device will translate to Portuguese. So we have this today. We have real-time translation in cell phones available today, in a single app. Did it change how we think? No. It did empower us to fluidly communicate with others. It eliminated the language barrier. For example, one of the previous talks was in Hungarian. Apart from the kozanom, I don't know many other words. So I will try to learn later on. Hopefully in one of the next editions I'll present in Hungarian. I'll be proud to do it. But this would empower me to attend the talk. I would really like to attend the talk. But the language barrier didn't allow me to access any information I wanted to. And this is where the technology is powerful. It will allow you to have access to something you cannot. Again, can it be used to destroy our individuality? It's a real danger. It's a good question. It's a real danger. But that's why we have museums. And we don't need to forget our language. We can continue to think in Hungarian or Portuguese or English, and we will always remember our roots. But whenever we need this technology, whenever we go to a new country, we don't need to learn the language. We can simply understand it. This will allow all the 8 billion people in the world to communicate.
Right.
And communication is fundamental for peace.
Thank you for your question.
Great question.
I hope that was answered
very big.
effectively. We are out of time, but if you guys have any more questions, I do encourage you to get in touch with Nuno via his website or on his social media. And stick around, because we're going to be addressing a really interesting topic, which is, would you fight for your country? So stick around, and give it up one more time for Nuno Martins, everyone.
You guys, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much for coming.
Sorry.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.